Now we're moving to evaluating. I got two different problems over here. Okay, I got four problems. This is a quadrant, and four quadrants here, four different problems. I'm going to go through each one. This is the famous problem comparing A and B. Notice A says the quantity of -3 to the 4th power, and then B says the opposite of 3 to the 4th power. Two different problems, okay? So I'm going to explain how to think through this. I'm going to go from A to B and then C to D. Let's go in the green section right here. So we have -3 to the 4th. So I write it in expanded form. First step, -3 times -3 times -3 times -3. That's your first step right there. I always like to, when I'm dealing with multiplication, I take them 2 by 2s, okay? I remember when my kids were young, what was that, Franklin or something? He said, I can count by 2s and tie my shoes, okay? We're going to take them by 2s. So here, our next step, our third step, is -3 times -3. A negative times a negative is a positive. Got to know the rules. +9. Notice I'm using times. I'm using a dot this time for multiplication. You could have used parentheses. It doesn't matter. And then -3 times -3 is +9. Now I'm here at this step. +9 times a positive is a positive. We get +81. Done. Starts out wide, ends at a point. Now let's go to B. Opposite of 3 to the 4th. The opposite. In fact, I make that -1, and then I expand 3 to the 4th. 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. Okay, next step, bring down that -1. Take them by 2s. 3 times 3 is +9. 3 times 3 again is +9. I use a dot for multiplication. You can use parentheses. Next step equals, bring down the -1. 9 times 9 is 81. Final step, what's a negative times a positive? It's a negative. Write that first. Always write your sign first. And then 1 times 81 is 81. Final answer, -81. Okay. Hope you found that one good. That I always like to show those. Now let's go to C. Here we have 64.3 divided by 100. I could have had 64.3 divided by 1,000. It doesn't matter. Okay. But since I have 2 zeros here, that's telling me to move the decimal 2 spaces to the left. So I'm bringing down 64.3. And that decimal's here, I'm going to move it 2 spaces to the left. You see my arrow. And when I rewrite the problem, it becomes 0.643. Why am I showing you this method? You could have done long division because you're going to be taking a quiz and sometime, or final, and you have a limited amount of time. Maybe you don't want to do long division. This is a shortcut you can use when you're dividing by 100 or 1,000 or something. Base 10. It works instead of doing long division. Okay, let's go to part D. Absolute value means the distance between a number, the distance between 0 and the number inside of the absolute value bars. So when I say what's the absolute value of 8, I mean what's the distance between 0 and 8 on the number line. Remember, distance is always positive. So the absolute value of 8 is +8. So what's the distance, when I say what's the absolute value of -30, I mean what's the distance between -30 and 0 on the number line? +30. And then you see that number line at the bottom, right? What's the distance between -8 and 0? +8. What's the distance between +8 and 0? +8. Therefore, the absolute value of any number will always be positive.